SCRUM, Guide for the Agile Way to Project Management. Written by Jason Cambry. Narrated by Jim D. Johnston. Introduction. What does SCRUM methodology entail? Agile Software Development. Agile software development is a well-known technique used by various software developers to plan and create completely functional products for their customers. Every Agile methodology cleverly combines both traditional and modern ideas in a manner that is quickly comprehended and adopted by developers. An Agile methodology called SCRUM is discussed throughout this book. SCRUM, better known as a framework, is an agile approach to software development that promotes teamwork. This means that a team of developers doesn't get a predetermined guide describing how each step is to be performed on a project. Decision-making is primarily done by the team itself, without receiving instructions from a leader or supervisor. So the Scrum team is expected to be completely autonomous and organized in order to start and finish programming projects. In this framework, every programmer's proficiency is needed from the point of creating an idea to implementing it. Scrum currently boasts high popularity because of its simplicity, effectiveness, and broad applicability in terms of controlling diverse interactive and incremental tasks. This agile software development structure is mainly associated with Ken Schwaber, the owner of a company called Advanced Development Methods. He used something that would later become Scrum in the 1990s. Other big names mentioned include John Skomniatales, Jeff McKenna, and Jeff Sutherland. In 1995 and the following years, Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland merged to form the current Scrum methodology. An imperative unit is called Sprint, and each includes a list of activities that a development team feels it has enough time to work on. This list is called a sprint backlog. When developing the backlog, the programmers focus on how quickly they perform their last sprints. They break down the stories and features into smaller tasks that are set to be completed within 4 to 16 hours. The list is developed in a way that permits each programmer to pick a task in relation to the preset scope of work and their level of knowledge and skills. This, as explained above, promotes group cohesion and teamwork. The status of work that is pending, in progress, or finished is recorded on the task board. Scrum involves major and auxiliary roles. The former are called pigs, while the latter are called chickens. In addition, the major roles are usually the ones that lead to the production of a product, and they are 3. The first one is called the Scrum Master. It oversees the Agile software development process to make sure that it's followed by the development team without disruptions. It gets rid of hindrances and is not necessarily a boss. The Scrum Master simply stands between the programming group and any potential interference. The second role is the Product Owner, who makes sure that the expert's deliverables are according to the customer's expectations. In addition, the Product Owner puts tasks in the sprint backlog in the order of priority so that the development team can pick the tasks they want to complete for each sprint. Lastly, there is the development team, usually a cross-functional group, which assumes the responsibility of doing a programming project. Its responsibility is to deliver a valuable product that's worth shipping to a customer at the end of each sprint. A typical Agile software development group is made up of 3 to 9 professionals that have diverse skills. Their work is to analyze, design, and test a product. They also solve technical problems via a collaborative approach. Chapter 1. What is Scrum? Scrum is a simple project management framework for incremental product development that has become wildly popular in the software development community. Usually paired with engineering practices from the extreme programming (XP) community, Scrum is one exponent of the Agile movement, and represents a paradigmic shift from waterfall, a traditional project management approach that, until recently, has dominated software development. The Scrum method is deliberately designed as a framework, that is, a lightweight management wrapper that can be applied to existing processes. However, every part of Scrum's minimal framework is essential for its core tenets of facilitating productivity through communication, collaboration, and self-organization. Given its spare structure, it's critical that all of Scrum's roles and processes are observed. Here's a quick overview of Scrum's primary roles and meetings. Scrum roles. The Scrum framework includes only 3 roles: the product owner, the Scrum team, and the Scrum Master. 1. The product owner is the single individual responsible for the success of a project, which entails communicating product vision to team members and negotiating sprint goals with them. As such, this person constantly reprioritizes the product backlog to reflect those items which will yield the highest business value. Because the product owner is responsible for generating a return on investment, this role possesses the authority to accept or reject each product increment at the sprint review meeting, which occurs at the conclusion of each sprint. 2. The sprint team is a cross-functional and self-organizing team of about 7 members, plus or minus 2, that is responsible for delivering a functional product increment each sprint. During the sprint planning meeting, the team negotiates the work it will tackle each sprint with the product owner, and then during the sprint, determines amongst its members how to complete that work. 3. The Scrum Master facilitates team productivity and self-organization by removing impediments that obstruct progress, reminding all team members to observe Scrum's rules and ensure that all Scrum artifacts remain highly visible. It's important to note that the Scrum Master has no authority. This role functions as a servant leader. Therefore, it's recommended that individuals who derive satisfaction from a team's success, not just individual heroics, are best suited for this position. Scrum meetings. The Scrum framework includes 4 main meetings: sprint planning, the daily stand-up, sprint reviews, and the sprint retrospectives, as well as one important ancillary meeting, backlog grooming. 1. During the sprint planning meeting, the product owner and the team negotiate the work that team members will attempt to complete in the next sprint. The product owner is responsible for identifying the work with the highest priority, while the team is responsible for committing to the amount of work it can accomplish within the confines of the sprint. 2. The daily stand-up meeting allows team members to deliver updates and exchange information on a daily basis. Every day, at the same time and place, team members spend 15 minutes reporting to one another. Each team member reports to the rest of the team what he or she did since the previous meeting, what will be done before the next one, and what impediments obstruct progress. 3. The sprint review meeting occurs at the end of each sprint. At this meeting, the team demonstrates the functional product increment it's developed, and the product owner either accepts or rejects the work, based on the previously negotiated agreement. This is an opportunity to inspect and adapt, that is, to examine the product's progress and revise direction if necessary for future sprints. 4. The sprint retrospective provides the team with an occasion to inspect and adapt its own processes. During this meeting, the team reflects upon its performance in the past sprint and brainstorms ways to improve going forward. 5. Backlog grooming, which is known as the 5th Scrum meeting, creates a dedicated time for the product owner and team to come together to prepare the backlog prior to the sprint planning meeting. Although Scrum is a relatively skeletal framework, it's essential that practitioners acknowledge how purposeful its construction is. Each role of the framework is designed to create a balance in terms of both authority and responsibility for the members of a Scrum team, while Scrum's few meetings and artifacts sketch out necessary milestones within the development cycle. Of course, there are ways that organizations can modify the framework to suit particular needs, but these basic aspects should remain intact and provide users with a roadmap for effective, continually improving product development and delivery. Chapter 2. Who is a good Scrum Master? In the IT sphere, a lot of different principles and techniques are applied during every stage of the software development lifecycle. They help to make the development and testing procedures be more flexible and effective. SCRUM is one such agile methodology. It hastens the process of product development and software testing procedure. SCRUM has several specific characteristics. What are SCRUM's main features? It combines two approaches, complex and flexible. The process includes three parties: product owner, SCRUM master, and development and testing team. The methodology requires an effective communication and productive collaboration between all stakeholders of the development process. A SCRUM Master is an irreplaceable member of the development process who provides an effective adoption of the Agile software development methodology. This person can be called the interlink between marketing and development departments. An inevitable part of everyday life of the team members are the stand-up meetings. They take place every day with the aim of keeping the stakeholders informed about the status of the development and testing procedures. What are the core aspects of the daily meeting? The scope of work that has already been done, the work plan for a day, the possible difficulties. The discussion of these factors helps to realize the real state of affairs and to define further actions and steps of the development process. The exchange of information may prevent the occurrence of problems. The communication should be effective at every stage of the software development lifecycle. For example, it's impossible to perform usability testing or functional testing of a high quality without sharing the obtained results and known facts. The same situation is with the development procedure. The Scrum Master enables the team to work as a single entity. It's rather difficult to become a really good Scrum Master. This person should have some particular qualities. What are the characteristics of a good Scrum Master? He's able to promote the effective work of the team and each of its members. The Scrum Master is always ready to help or to give a piece of advice to solve and prevent any troubles and difficulties. This person is aware of the majority of Scrum rules and principles. He shares this information with the members of his team. The Scrum Master is a coach for the team. The Master is a wise time planner. He's able to determine an approximate time needed for solving this or that problem. He's the source of inspiration for the team. The Scrum Master knows how to motivate the specialists and how to raise the team spirit. The Scrum Master never over-controls the team. Why Scrum? The word Scrum is derived from the game of rugby, where a team collectively moves down the field to reach its goal. Scrum is an empirical process that encourages teams to challenge themselves a little more every time. Scrum follows a process of inspect and adapt. Frequent inspection exposes issues or barriers, and the team then adapts its approach as needed. This shorter feedback loop ensures that any product flaws are fixed early in the cycle. Scrum is made up of certain roles, artifacts, and time boxes. A Scrum team is made up of 5 to 7 people. Let's have a brief look at the various components of Scrum. There is typically one product owner who serves as the customer or customer proxy and finalizes the requirements. The Scrum Master is the process owner who mainly works on removing any barriers the team faces and ensures that Scrum is followed correctly. The team is any team member other than the product owner or Scrum Master. This could be a programmer, tester, business analyst, architect, and so forth. Scrum encourages its team members to wear different hats, and it's very common to find team members pitching in as and where needed. Scrum is made up of iterations or sprints. These may have any length ranging from 1 week to 4 weeks. Sprints start and end at a fixed time irrespective of whether the targeted work is finished. This aspect is called a time box, which will be explained below in further detail. Scrum artifacts. The main artifacts that are produced in Scrum are the product backlog, sprint burndown, and release burndown. The product backlog is an ordered list of all the features that the customer might want in the product. The highest priority features are at the top, ensuring that the most important and highest value functionality is built first. The sprint backlog has a limited scope. It consists of features from the product backlog that are going to be built in that particular sprint. Any work that's not done at the end of the sprint goes back to the product backlog for reprioritization. The sprint burn-down chart tells us how much time is left before we reach our goal. It tracks the work done every day and is relevant only for the given sprint. The release burn-down chart tracks the time left up to the end of the release. It also portrays how much work is done with respect to release goals. SCRUM time boxes. SCRUM introduces the concept of a time box. This means that a given event will have a fixed time and will expire at the end of the time limit. The various meetings in SCRUM are allocated a time box. The SCRUM time boxes include the sprint planning meeting, release planning meeting, the daily SCRUM, sprint review, and retrospectives. The daily SCRUM, or stand-up, is always 15 minutes. The other planning meetings also have a fixed time depending on the sprint length that the team decides on. SCRUM acceptance criteria. SCRUM introduces the concept of done. This is also called success criteria or acceptance criteria, and outlines the conditions a particular feature must meet in order to be considered done or complete. SCRUM storyboards and co-location. The storyboard, used to portray the sprint backlog, is another mainstay of the SCRUM process. This is a physical board in the team which could be part of a wall or several walls as needed. There's a concept of a story, which is a feature or high-level requirement. Typically, any item from the product backlog could become one or many stories. The story states what the user accepts from a given feature. For example, as a user, I should be able to log into my email. The success criteria outline the things that must happen to consider this done. All the tasks needed to plan, design, code, and test this story are placed under this. These tasks could be done by several people on the team. SCRUM encourages co-locating all the team members in an open group area minus walls. The idea is to encourage open communication and reduce overheads from emails or phone calls. Impromptu discussions between the customer and team members are pretty common in a SCRUM room. Information radiators. The SCRUM artifacts are displayed throughout the area where the team sits and works. These include storyboards, backlogs, burn-down charts, barrier section, architecture maps, designs, and so forth. The idea is that any relevant information should be easily visible to the team all the time. This is informative as well as motivational. The information radiates or jumps out from all the charts and boards. Color coding is used to differentiate tasks, stories, barriers, and so forth. A lot of software tools are available for tracking SCRUM projects, but it cannot replace the effect physical information radiators have, in my opinion. Sprint retrospective. The retrospective deserves special mention. This is where the team comes together at the end of a sprint and openly talks about what went well and what could be done better. A retrospective is not to be used for finger-pointing. Retrospectives become more effective as a team gels and team members trust each other and the management. This is necessary to uncover impediments that people may be hesitant to speak about in a typical controlling management structure. Chapter 3. SCRUM in the Global Scenario. Even though SCRUM encourages co-location, it may not always be possible, especially in the case of distributed teams that are in multiple geographic locations. SCRUM has been proven to be effective even in such situations, and many teams practice distributed SCRUM. This is a high-level introduction to SCRUM. We'll be taking a closer and more detailed look at the various SCRUM concepts discussed in this book. How to choose a SCRUM Master. In their capacity as SCRUM Master, one's duty is to guide, oversee, and facilitate that the SCRUM work process is unimpeded and used optimally to ensure higher efficiency in product development projects. However, for SCRUM to be successful, it's extremely important that all those invested in it, be it the SCRUM Master, product owner, or development team, understand the nature of their responsibilities, and therefore do what is expected of them, which will not be possible until and unless all these roles are well understood by those assigned to them. Often, when a sudden switch is made from other Agile strategies to SCRUM, there may be some difficulties in appointing the SCRUM Master, for it's an important post that must be filled by exactly the right candidate. The position may be designated either by the work team itself or chosen by senior management that's not involved in the everyday working of these projects. The question is, how should the decision about the appointment of the Scrum Master be made? The answer lies in understanding the nature of the work that being a Scrum Master entails, and which kind of a person is suitable for it. The person appointed for this job is typically associated with servant leader qualities, which implies that he maintains a balance between leading the team and working for it to ensure that there are no obstacles in its working process. While he is definitely a figure of authority, the master should recognize that the final decision regarding the product development strategy within Scrum is that of the development team. He should only have an advisory role in that capacity. The majority of his work is to plan and schedule meetings, establish communication between the product owner and development team, and protect the latter from facing distractions of any kind. Therefore, the master should be a person of experience that has superior managerial skills and crisis management abilities. It's often assumed that the position of Scrum Master is similar to that of a project manager, and thus, if the previous arrangement was such, he or she can be appointed into this new office. However, it's important to remember that a project manager works in a more authoritative capacity where final approval for everything is in his hands. Since the scenario is not quite as similar in the case of the latter, often a problem may arise if the project manager is unable to understand the nature of change that it imbues. Some teams also follow a system where the master is continually rotated, possible with different projects or different product owners. Most people believe that this is not a very sound system, because constant change in leadership allows for different outcomes each time over. Such a system would be beneficial only when the team is looking to create learning opportunities and wishes to educate all team members being in such a position, before deciding upon who shall be best for a long-term arrangement. Stick to the Scrum rules, come what may. The Scrum rules exist as the basic fundamentals of an impressive framework. However, these rules are constantly tested when we try to apply them in industry. What makes it so important to stick to these rules? The next tip is based on an example from industry that truly tested my experience and trust in the Scrum framework. I wrote it because, in my experience, the single most challenging thing within industry is having the resolve and faith to stick to the Scrum rules. This tip is very closely related to starting with the Scrum rules, but subtly different. Whereas that rule was about starting on the correct foundation, this rule is all about sticking to that foundation throughout thick and thin. It may seem as if simple rules are easy to stick to, but any experienced Scrum practitioner will tell you that simple to understand does not necessarily equal easy to put into practice. Let's take the example of the daily Scrum. I remember a situation in which, due to a number of factors, sprint planning took more than the recommended 4 hours for a 2-week sprint. In keeping with Scrum rules, we time-boxed the meeting and decided to meet again the next day to complete the session. Since the second meeting was in the morning, the team questioned the need for a daily Scrum meeting, especially since each of us knew what the other was doing the day before, planning, and what we were about to do, planning. They actually became quite emotional and almost rebellious about the situation. As a Scrum Master, I had to remind them that the daily Scrum was also a source of communication about issues. Live issues, blockers for planning, issues that had been communicated by email to certain members, absolutely anything. Therefore, this 15-minute stand-up meeting was probably more important after 4 hours of planning, since communication may have been missed, since we had not discussed anything but planning for the previous day. If we had gone against the simple rule of having a daily Scrum every day, we may have missed the opportunity to solve and communicate about an issue that would have delayed our sprint or release. This is just a small example of how sticking to a very basic rule can have a very big impact on the performance of a team, and I'm sure that if you look through the Scrum rules, you can think of many other implications of missing out Scrum rules. Therefore, I'd advise you to stick to the Scrum rules and learn how to give reasonable explanations of why each Scrum rule is so important. Chapter 4. Minimizing Risks Through Scrum. Being an agile, iterative process, the Scrum framework inherently minimizes risk. The following Scrum practices facilitate the effective management of risk. 1. Flexibility reduces business environment-related risk. Risk is largely minimized in Scrum due to the flexibility in adding or modifying requirements at any time in the project lifecycle. This enables the organization to respond to threats or opportunities from the business environment and unforeseen requirements whenever they arise, with usually low cost of managing such risks. 2. Regular feedback reduces expectations-related risk. Being iterative, the Scrum framework gives ample opportunities to obtain feedback and set expectations throughout the project lifecycle. This ensures that the project stakeholders, as well as the team, are not caught off guard by miscommunicated requirements. 3. Team ownership reduces estimation risk. The Scrum team estimates and takes ownership of the sprint backlog items, which leads to more accurate estimation and timely delivery of product increments. 4. Transparency reduces non-detection risk. The Scrum principle of transparency around which the framework is built ensures that risks are detected and communicated early, leading to better risk handling and mitigation. Moreover, when conducting Scrum of Scrum's meetings, impediments that one team is currently facing may be deemed a risk for other Scrum teams in the future. This should be recognized in the updated impediments log. 5. Iterative delivery reduces investment risk. Continuous delivery of value throughout the Scrum project lifecycle, as potentially shippable deliverables are created after every sprint, reduces investment risk for the customer. Let me explain by giving a few reasons for why Scrum always works. 1. Communication shouldn't be the barrier. Communication among the members of the team and the clients is what gets appreciated and promoted by Scrum, which results in attitude good for the team. 2. Amazingly fast results. Getting the results after every few steps is what is needed to get the feedback from the client, which works so well and is helpful to work efficiently on the project. 3. Staying focused. Time waste is just not the focus in this methodology, as everything gets prioritized based on the importance of the item. 4. Estimates of reasonable time. The production team's involvement makes it easier and fair to estimate the accurate time needed. 5. Organized on own. One of the jobs of the production team is to make sure to achieve the specified goal at the desired time. A combination of skill sets and skill levels are often best to promote a continuous workflow. 6. Openness. Scrum is always transparent. From the beginning, the client knows what he can expect at the end of each step, as he is the hand behind the product backlog. Equal transparency is also maintained within the team. In fact, they maintain it throughout the project. Chapter 5. Scrum and Pitfalls to Avoid at All Costs. Scrum, having its roots in Agile mythology, can be effectively employed for almost any type of project. However, Scrum is most preferred for software development purposes. The Scrum process is ideally suited for rapidly changing project environments. It's most useful, and its potential can be tapped in the best manner when the user-related requirements are changed frequently, or randomly, due to various reasons. The methodology makes it possible to incorporate the changes easily and effectively within its development cycle, and still generate positive outputs. The true essence and working of Scrum. According to Scrum methodology, development occurs in short bursts of activity known as sprints. Each sprint can generally last from 2 to 4 weeks. Each sprint begins with a meeting known as a sprint meeting, and typically concludes with clearly defined and set out development objectives. Sprint meetings are very brief and occur daily before the commencement of the sprint for that particular day. The main objective of the meeting is to apprise everyone about how much development progress has been made since the previous day, and what objectives are to be achieved on the particular working day. The main purpose of Scrum is to aid the team members in inspecting and adapting to the changes, and providing transparency with regards to the working of the project. Another main advantage offered by the Scrum framework is to increase the involvement and the interaction of the client with the team members. The client remains apprised about the most recent development status, which helps him or her to undertake informed decisions about what further development activities are required to complete the project in totality, and what features and functionalities need to be omitted, or which have become redundant during the development cycle. Pitfalls while implementing Scrum. Scrum is a framework, a methodology based upon an organized thought process developed specially to cater to changing development requirements. And the main issue with Agile and Scrum is that the methodology is to be implemented or its rules enforced in a proper manner. Many times, when organizations are not properly trained in the implementation of the methodology, there's a tendency to fall back upon old development methods, consciously or unconsciously, thus making Scrum redundant. Traditional development methods such as waterfall have been in existence since a long time, and people are more familiar with them. Project managers have practiced these methods for a long time, and they're more conversant with them. Scrum can be difficult to implement, and if the manager is not properly trained, he or she may substitute some of the Scrum-related processes with waterfall methods. The objective is to provide a specific solution during the development cycle, and when the person fails to implement Scrum in a particular development-related process, he or she patches up the Scrum implementation process with a waterfall technique. This should be avoided at all costs. Scrum should be implemented in totality for it to be effective. Why Scrum works. How to sell Scrum to your organization. 5 reasons why the Scrum Master role works. 1. Dedicated bulldozer. Unlike other frameworks, the role focuses one person on removing obstacles. This means that the team can concentrate on getting the job done. 2. Dedicated coach. The role gives one person responsibility for coaching others. No one can pass the buck on this. Therefore, one person has the focus of helping all members of the organization to understand the framework. 3. Impartiality. A Scrum Master can be as helpful to a team as a product owner, see below, without picking sides. The only focus is on making sure the framework and project is successful. This can help solve problems and gain trust. 4. Responsibility for framework, not delivery. This is almost reverse psychology. The Scrum Master is only concerned with making sure the framework is carried out as the Scrum rules say. Divorcing the responsibility for the framework from the responsibility to deliver means that he or she can concentrate on making sure that rules are followed, which in turn creates a well-oiled machine. If the Scrum Master's job is done and everyone in the Scrum team is performing their role, then the development team can deliver. 5. No single point of control that could fail. Since a Scrum Master does not control the team, the absence of one does not leave the team in disarray. The Scrum Master sets up a system that everyone can follow in his or her absence. 5 reasons why the product owner role works. 1. Time maximized for business return on investment. The product owner is not responsible for delivering the work or maintaining the process, but simply for making priority calls and maintaining the requirements backlog. This allows a great deal of focus. 2. Dedicated source of requirements. There's no one else in the organization that needs to be consulted on a project's requirements. Senior stakeholder requirements flow through the product owner for a single point of contact. 3. One person is responsible for changes in requirements. As the business picture changes, only one person needs to capture the new requirements and update them. 4. Achieves the best compromise. Even senior stakeholders will need to trust their product owner with the final decision. This aligns the business and makes appropriate compromises for the good of the product. 5. Aligns the customer and team daily. This role is the interface between the business and the team. His or her presence at all the Scrum meetings means that the team is always acting on the latest information. 5 reasons why the development team role works. 1. A group of dedicated experts. Explicitly calling the team out as experts means that Scrum teams are assembled to solve problems on their own. This frees up other roles to focus on their own areas of expertise. 2. Flexible to business needs. Scrum teams adapt to a given situation in order to get a product increment built. Any decisions should be tied only to a business requirement. This in turn gives a business long and short-term flexibility and reduces wasted effort in favor of targeted effort. 3. Lean and cost-effective. The small size combined with high degree of expertise means that things get done to a high degree of quality with minimal technical communication. 4. Less management needed. Teams organize themselves. This means that everyone else can concentrate on his or her own role. 5. Highly scalable when given the resource. Large teams can be separated and organized through regular meetings called Scrum of Scrums. The teams each have Scrum Masters to keep them coordinated. Caveat: when 2 or more teams work on the same code base, the team will need to decide if this is feasible. Chapter 6. Understanding a Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Development Team. The success of Scrum is almost completely dependent on the various members of the Scrum framework and their understanding and emulation of the respective duties in whatever designation they're occupying. However, in some instances, especially when a sudden switch is made to this Agile strategy, people may not fully understand the nature of their duties in the work process. Let's consider exactly what the role of the Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Development Team is, respectively. The Scrum Master is the servant leader in Scrum. This implies that his leadership is limited within the purview of ensuring that the development team does not face any obstacles in the course of their work. He also establishes the channel of communication between the product owner and the team, alongside being responsible for crisis management if and when the need arises. The Scrum Master schedules the meetings and ensures that the working team is able to perform optimally by identifying and eliminating all sources of impediment and distraction. The product owner, on the other hand, is in some ways the representative of the customer. The basic role here is to ensure that the business output produced meets the requirements of the client. For this to be accomplished, the product owner writes customer-centric items, arranges them in order of priority, and then adds them to the product backlog for the development team to work upon. The lattermost of these, writing the product backlog, is among the most important of all Scrum processes, and should thus be done with utmost intelligence and care to detail. Thus, the product owner should be someone of great skill and experience in that regard. The product owner is the single individual who is responsible for the success of the project. The Scrum product owner communicates his or her vision to the software development team, outlines work to be completed in the backlog, and prioritizes it based on business value. Of course, he or she must also work closely with stakeholders to ensure their interests are reflected in the product, and the software development team to ensure the product is developed on time and within budget. As such, the Scrum product owner must be freely available to the development team to provide direction and answer questions. However, this mix of authority and availability to the team makes it difficult for the product owner to resist the temptation to micromanage. Because the Scrum method of Agile software development values self-organization, it's the product owner's responsibility to respect the team's ability to complete its work based on its own plan. This means that a product owner cannot add work mid-sprint. Even if requirements change or a chief competitor takes a product to market that renders plans irrelevant, the product owner must wait until the next sprint planning meeting to redirect a team's trajectory. You can imagine how difficult it is to maintain a hands-off approach to management when deadlines draw near and customers make last-minute demands. Moreover, the Scrum product owner is responsible for constantly considering what activities will yield the highest business value. This means making difficult, even unpopular, decisions during the sprint planning meeting. But again, because the product owner is the single individual who takes the heat if the project fails, he or she must aggressively stake out what aspects of a product are critical, when they are built, and so on. Just as the team has a responsibility to deliver the negotiated work to the product owner is obliged to deliver the product to the customer, according to the customer's specifications. Using Sprint to manage Agile software development is the leading strategy to help teams reduce risk and associated costs, while increasing the quality of a team's releases. Through an emphasis on communication and collaboration, Scrum brings everyone together, from developers to stakeholders, to build a better product. The team members have cross-functional skills and plan, design, develop, test, analyze, and so on all themselves, with each team member bringing their own expertise to the forefront. Such a team should be skilled in creating and sustaining a harmonious work relationship and group dynamics, so as to ensure that their constant interaction is without any glitches. The bottom line here is that the synchronized working of the three entities, the Scrum Master, the Product Owner, and Development Team, are what makes Scrum an Agile strategy producing superior results. However, appointment to these positions must be made very carefully in order to ensure that each person's strengths are recognized. The Scrum Master in some organizations is continually rotated. Such radical measures, however, should be considered only if the organization is looking to create learning opportunities and recognize each person's capabilities and weaknesses. If Scrum is being implemented as it should be, with time-boxed sprints being conducted, and product and sprint backlogs being maintained well, this Agile technique can lead to a perceptible increase in a firm's productivity. Chapter 7. Some common problems that a Scrum Master faces. The Scrum Master has the primary role of facilitating this work strategy and ensuring that there is no impediment in the team's efforts at achieving their sprint target. However, small glitches and unexpected errors always occur, and some are so common that all Scrum Masters should have some prepared or prospective solutions ready for them. It's not only time-saving and efficient, but also allows for the sharpening of one's crisis management abilities in the long run. One of the most common problems that occur is that the product owner is unable to give the team the product backlog in time. Not knowing the priorities of the product owner, it's difficult for a development team to go forth in action. In such a scenario, the Scrum Master can choose from among various options, depending upon the exact circumstances. Either the entire team could be allowed to take a break from sprinting, especially if the delay is supposed to be a day or two. On the other hand, a development team could also carry on with its planning meetings without giving priority to backlog, especially if the team has already completed some successful sprints. The team can then create a rough draft of priorities if they're familiar with the general direction the product is taking, and present it to the product owner for approval or amendment. Also, the team could take this break as an opportunity to review their work and gather feedback in order to further improve the Scrum process. However, to ensure that the Scrum pattern is followed, a strict policy should be followed wherein such breach of procedure is unacceptable. If extreme situations are faced, the sprint completion can work upon a model of incentives as well. Also, in most scenarios, overseas units are usually unaware of Scrum and how it works. Therefore, proper training, albeit a concise, short one, must be conducted, for otherwise the sailing shall not be smooth. Many Scrum Masters also grapple with the question of whether it would be better for an entire development team to work on a particular aspect, complete the corresponding sprint, and move on to the next, or the team be divided, with various different groups handling different aspects at the same time. The solution to this dilemma is dependent on various factors such as size of the team, the time constraints, the nature of the project, and so on and so forth. Often a master may choose to try both the techniques before selecting one as the standard, or choose not to have a standard method at all. An experienced Scrum Master usually does have several such solutions at hand to deal with such hindrances. However, being prepared in advance is always best, for it displays foresight and efficiency that are both extremely crucial for business matters. What makes a great product owner? Apart from detailed product knowledge, what does the product owner need to drive a Scrum team to success? Here are a few traits that I feel are important to be an effective product owner. Total commitment. Complete engagement with the Scrum team is essential. While it may not be possible to be physically present in a Scrum team room all the time, the PO should be available via email, social media, messenger, and so forth. The idea is to appear approachable so that the team members do not hesitate to voice their questions. Product backlog owner. The PO owns the product backlog. This is an ordered list of all the features that are desirable in the product. The PO continuously orders this according to changing business priorities and must be on hand to answer any questions regarding the backlog. Subject matter expert. As an expert who should know the business and the product inside out, the PO is the go-to person for the Scrum team to answer any product-related questions. He's the sole authority on the product and must be able to explain any business logic or detailed functionality that needs to be built in, and thus should assist the team as they work on their sprint tasks. Collaborative. Being collaborative and a good communicator is essential for the PO. He should be able to place himself at par with the Scrum team and be open to deal with them at a peer level. A change in mindset might be needed here. Even though the person who is the PO is much higher in the organizational hierarchy, he or she needs to blend into the team and work shoulder to shoulder to achieve the common goal. Scrum versus extreme programming. Agile process. The Agile process, or software development, refers to a set of software development methods which are based on iterative development. In this process, the solutions and requirements both evolve mutual collaboration between cross-functional teams. These teams are self-organizing in nature. The Agile software development approach usually promotes a regimented kind of project management process, which encourages frequent adaptation and inspection, self-organization and accountability, a leadership philosophy which promotes teamwork, a business approach which brings into line the development with customer needs and company goals, and a group of best engineering practices having an intention to allow for rapid delivery of good quality software. Extreme programming, EP. This is a software development methodology with an intention to enhance software responsiveness and quality to the volatile requirements of customers. Being a type of Agile process, it promotes frequent releases in small development cycles. This introduces checkpoints and improves the productivity in a way that the new requirements from customers can be adopted. The advantages of extreme programming are 1. Unit testing of all code. 2. Avoiding programming of features until needed. 3. Programming in pairs or carrying out extensive code review. 4. Clarity and simplicity in code. 5. Volatile customer requirements better understood. 6. A flag management structure. 7. Frequent communication between the programmers and even with the customer. The drawbacks of extreme programming are 1. No documented compromises of user conflicts. 2. Unstable requirements. 3. Lack of overall design document or specification. 4. Incorporates inadequate software design. 5. Necessitates meetings at recurrent intervals at huge expense to customers. 6. Can enlarge the risk of scope creep due to the lack of thorough requirements documentation. 7. Requires excess of cultural change to adopt. Differences between Scrum and extreme programming, EP. 1. The time frame for iterative sprints is different in both approaches. 2. Changes are not allowed by the Scrum teams during their sprints, whereas extreme programming teams have to be much more agreeable to changes. 3. Work is done by EP teams in strict priority order, whereas in the case of Scrum, the product owner prioritizes the set of activities. 4. EP does prescribe some engineering practices. Scrum does not. Chapter 8. Scrum Agile Project Management Software. Using Scrum project management software is a simple way of making sense of large amounts of data and putting it into different forms that are easier to understand, such as graphs or charts. Large projects with lots of information can be difficult without the proper software. Listed below are some features of Scrum and Agile software and how they can aid you in running your business. You'll also be informed of the ways in which this software can help you in organizing data. Owning the information. When there's a lot of information to be put into an organized form, it can sometimes take control of your life and make running a business all the more difficult. Scrum will help you control the information, not the other way around. Refining your information. Scrum project management software helps you to organize and collect your information. Agile project management software will refine that organized data and turn it into something that's more adaptable and workable. Agile software is operated and organized by individuals rather than by computers alone. This allows your data to be optimized with human intelligence and created to be understood by regular people, not necessarily just computers. Team building. Scrum requires teams to communicate and always be on top of the project which they're handling. This software has features such as backlogging and sprinting, which allow for records to be more easily stored. While teamwork is a major requirement, self-organization is something that is greatly promoted by Scrum software. While it helps you to organize the data, it must be updated and recorded correctly so that it functions as it should. This is where the team comes into play. Keeping logs. Along with recording data, logs such as time boxes, product availability, and production and revenue income can be stored as well. In fact, many companies find Scrum software to be quite handy when it comes to logging statistics such as these. Agile project management software enhances this ability by providing methodology that makes for smoother data entry, storage, and organization. Acquiring and maintaining customer feedback is also easier to track. Keeping up with ever-changing trends in the market and within the consumer world can be difficult. With this software, business management and team communication can be made easier. Agile software and Scrum project management software go hand in hand when it comes to organizing, maintaining, and adapting information. Scrum acceptance criteria. Before a product owner would ever deem a team's work done, he or she would always consult the corresponding user's story acceptance criteria. In the Scrum method of Agile software development, acceptance criteria are the requirements which must be met for a story to be completed. Acceptance criteria are crucial to Scrum's management success because they clearly communicate a product owner's expectations and a team's development goals in one fell swoop. There's no gray area. Any member of the team, at any time, can consult a story's acceptance criteria and be assured that if the requirements listed are fulfilled by the end of the sprint, the team will receive credit for its work. But what happens when only some, or even the majority, of a story's acceptance criteria is met? Does the team receive a corresponding percentage of the story points for the fraction of work they completed? The simple answer is no. Scrum discourages product owners from awarding partial credit to work that is fittingly only partially completed. All of the criteria must be met, or the work is rejected as incomplete. In fact, many Scrum Masters won't allow teams to present work that hasn't been completed. Why does Scrum promote this all-or-nothing view of progress? There are a number of reasons for this. Firstly, an implicit acceptance criterion of any story is that it should be completed within the sprint. Because work is confined to the boundaries of a sprint, a team must respect that deadline for its work to be considered satisfactory. Secondly, teams commonly discover that the final 1% of work to be completed, the final push of the sprint, is disproportionately labor-intensive and time-consuming. Put another way, until it's done, it's not done. Finally, awarding credit for incomplete work results in velocity inflation. When a team's product owner awards credit for incomplete work, the team's velocity is no longer a reliable metric, and therefore has no value for forecasting. Moreover, when a team receives credit for a story that it actually has to finish in the next sprint, it means the next sprint includes additional work that isn't accounted for in the sprint backlog. Thus, a team must work harder to compensate. Unsurprisingly, this practice often leads to a team falling farther and farther behind, amassing substantial technical debt along the way. Clearly, it is advantageous for both the product owner and the team to only award credit when it is completely earned. Philosophically, it reinforces Scrum's tenets of transparency and open communication, and practically, it enables accurate forecasting and prevents technical debt. Chapter 9. 6 Steps to a Scrum Transformation. Make it work for you. Transitioning to Scrum is no easy task, no matter the size of the organization. The larger the organization, the more difficult it will be. I've seen far too many companies spending exorbitant amounts in transforming to Agile, yet fail in its attempts. I've found that it is the direction, or lack of it, that plays a major factor. Here are 3 steps you need to take to get you started in the right direction. Step 1. I've found the best way to transition is to start with a goal and understanding of why you are moving in this direction. Transitioning to Agile is trendy, but not a good reason to take your organization through it. So, what is your reason? Do you want to align business and IT? Or do you want to increase your speed to market? Do you want to increase team performance? Understand why and communicate it. Step 2. Outline your goals. Do your goals agree with the reason you choose to transition? If they don't, go back and review. Establishing the goals will help you focus. Step 3. Consider the type of transition. Is this an enterprise transformation to Agile or a departmental one? If it's a departmental approach, make sure you reach out to all the departments that your team will interact with to get their work done. Make an agreement with these other line managers up front that will cover approvals that may be required, change in processes that may need to be made. Remember, the goal is to remove as many obstacles early on out of the team's way as possible. Step 4. Understand your organization's corporate culture. Be prepared for the obstacles ahead. Is there something you can do to help change the culture to be more conducive to Agile thinking? If not, plan on how your team will be protected. Keep in mind, Scrum is all about self-organized teams. These teams solve problems and make decisions on the spot. If your corporate culture is not in alignment with this and other Scrum values, your team will be hitting brick in no time. Step 5. Choose the right project. Never ever start with a project that is a high-risk project. This would be disastrous. Start with a project that is low-risk and mid-sized. There's enough complexity to the transition. You don't need to add to it by selecting the wrong project. Step 6. Using the goals from Step 2, create an assessment. Baseline where you are today. This will help you monitor and drive the progress of the transition. Scrum, sprint planning. Capacity-driven versus velocity-driven planning. The development team are the only ones that commit to delivering a sprint. There are 2 common techniques used to arrive at a commitment. Both of them are guides that a team can use to determine how much work to take on. Capacity-driven. Capacity-driven planning means that the team commits on what they can deliver in a sprint, based on evidence of the number of hours worth of tasks they think they can complete. They observe a buffer to account for meetings and downtime. They then total the number of hours of subtasks in the sprint backlog and only commit to stories until their capacity is reached. This is helpful for teams that do not yet have a velocity, and I've seen it work for the duration of a project to great effect. The key is in adjusting the buffer based on retrospective. For example, in a 2-week sprint, there are 9 7.5-hour days, not including planning day if meetings take all day. This is 67.5 hours. If we observe a buffer of 1.5 hours per day, 13.5 hours, to account for lunch and meetings, this works out to 67.5 minus 13.5 equals 54 hours a sprint for work. Therefore, the team commits to no more than 54 hours of work in a sprint. The buffer can be expanded or contracted each sprint, and you'll soon reach a predictable number of hours that are lost to scheduled meetings and other immovable impediments. This is, of course, not foolproof, but it is very close, in my opinion. Velocity-driven. Velocity-driven planning means that the team commits on how many stories they can deliver in a sprint based on empirical evidence of the amount of story points they delivered per sprint till that point. The number of story points per sprint is called the average velocity. For example, the team's average velocity is 50 points per sprint. They discuss and think that they were overly ambitious before and rushed the job. Therefore, they reduce slightly to 45 points because they barely delivered the final 5-point story in their last sprint. The first 3 to 4 sprints are usually needed to set a reliable velocity. Therefore, if it's their first sprint, they use their gut feeling as a team to pick stories. Which one is best? Both capacity-driven and velocity-driven approaches can work, but I have found that velocity-driven planning tends to rely on gut feeling more for the first few sprints until the team are in full swing. Capacity-driven planning can falsely make teams think that the hour estimates are expected to be accurate, which they're not. I would recommend that capacity-driven planning yields better results for new teams who have not run a sprint together before, because the empirical evidence of task estimation is stronger and usually based on something everyone in the team has done. I say this because velocity-driven planning is based on story points, whose relationship to time is less predictable in the early sprints. Chapter 10. SCRUM Effort Estimation and Story Points. What's the best way for project managers to budget and allocate the time team members have to spend on a project? Depending on how the project will be managed, using traditional practices or agile management techniques, for example, determine whether capacity should be considered in terms of hours, time, or estimated difficulty, effort. In traditional project management, managers estimate a team member's capacity for work based on task-level planning. That is, they estimate how long they can expect particular tasks will take to be completed, and then assign tasks based on a team member's total available time using traditional tools like Gantt charts. The problem with this approach is that it may lend itself to managing at the team member level, not the project level. That is, the project manager may end up focusing too much on keeping people busy and micromanaging individual workloads, rather than the overall success of the project being developed and the value it generates for the customer. In complex new project development, like software teams, effort estimation utilizing story points may be a better answer than managing tasks. SCRUM, a popular project management framework developed by Agile gurus Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, takes a drastically different perspective for determining how to track and report on project status. Instead of trying to keep team members busy, it focuses on shippable product increments each sprint, or work cadence. That is, it ultimately places the focus on the customer, preferring to know that the customer receives what it asks for, rather than keeping team members busy. Teams can measure their overall progress against this product increment, utilizing a focus on story-based estimation points. How does this process of estimation work? In a meeting during which the boss, project manager, is absent, teams estimate in abstracted figures to quantify the relative effort associated with a particular story. A story is often composed of multiple tasks. Some teams use numeric sizing, that is, a scale of 1 to 10, to estimate the size of a story, while others use T-shirt sizes: extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, extra extra large, extra 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 large. Some use the Fibonacci sequence, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and so forth, to capture how difficulty tends to increase exponentially. Other teams have used dog breeds for estimation purposes, in which, say, a teacup poodle or chihuahua would represent the smallest stories, and a Great Dane or bull mastiff would represent the largest. What's important for effort estimation is that the team shares an understanding of the scale it's using, so that everyone feels comfortable with the values of the scale. Although the project manager or product owner in Scrum needs these estimates to effectively prioritize backlog items and, consequently, forecast the delivery of the product to be delivered based on velocity, only the team can make these estimates, and the presence of the project manager, product owner, could pressure, intentionally or otherwise, a team to minimize its effort estimates. Even when team members estimate amongst themselves, it's recommended that everyone reveal their estimate at the same time to avoid influencing others. This process resembles a game of poker in that individuals show their hands or reveal their estimates simultaneously. It just got better, didn't it? A big project and a cool new methodology. Not quite, as is often revealed on so many projects. Admittedly, the dialogue of the project manager was simplified, but essentially, this is how a great methodology is set up for failure. Team Member 1. Why do we need to stand around? There are chairs around. We can just sit, right? Project Manager. Well, that's what the methodology says. Team Member 1. But why? Project Manager. Well, it's something to do about if people stand, meetings are shorter. Team Member 2. But our meetings typically last for an hour or so, and it's so tiring. Project Manager. We have to discuss so many issues. Obviously, it'll take time. If it's such a big deal, then you can sit. Thus begins a slow but steady twisting of the tenets of Scrum, and the team embarks on a slippery slope. As the team now begins to sit during daily stand-ups, the meetings increase in length from 1 hour to 1.5 hours, and sometimes stretching to 2 hours. With less time available for actual work, tensions increase. Team members start questioning the need to meet on a daily basis when on earlier projects they met once a week and things were more or less fine. Then, from daily stand-ups, the format changes to alternate day sit-downs. This affects coordination, and as the gap increases between meetings, the meetings start taking a bit longer or issues increase. Slowly, other changes start taking place. The whiteboard where tasks were updated in the first week stops being used by team members. Instead, they revert to sending email updates. The project manager, not realizing the critical importance of each of these tenets of Scrum, not trained in Scrum methods and never having practiced Scrum, also starts questioning himself and accepts these changes. He keeps a track of to be done, in process, and completed, but only at his desk. Other team members start to become more confused. Now, as the team had dedicated itself to Scrum in the beginning, switching to alternate traditional project management methods in the middle of the project leads to an even bigger mess. End result, a poorly managed project which started off with good intentions of using Scrum as a methodology, but failed because of lack of understanding of Scrum. Scrum is a simple methodology, but needs training in Scrum and guidance for first-time users. Without it, critical elements end up getting twisted, and the project heads towards failure. Moral of the story, Scrum training is not optional. If you want to get the best out of it, get expert help in the beginning, and only after thorough training should you use it at work. Scrum Study is the global certification body for Scrum and Agile certifications. The quality of its study resources, use of technology to create user-friendly processes, simplified partner registration and trainer accreditation process, and the focus on interactive training methodologies distinguishes it in the world of Scrum and Agile certifications. The Scrum development method is based on working in sprints, which are short periods of time in which the team is able to produce incremental project deliverables. The Scrum methodology utilizes 3 main roles: the Scrum Master, who facilitates the group, the Product Owner, who represents the business unit that will use the software, and the team, made up of software developers. Before each sprint, there's a planning meeting with the entire group involved in the project in order to review what was accomplished in the previous sprint and what will be accomplished in the next. Each sprint has a specific time frame, and if all the work is not finished, it goes into the backlog, where the group can pull requirements for future sprints. The team has short daily meetings called stand-ups to discuss the project and how each person is progressing and identify any impediments to progress. The Scrum methodology has many advantages, including flexibility. The product owner does not need to know all the requirements in the beginning of development, and any new technology developed can be incorporated into the new product. If one aspect of the product is not working or is not what the product owner had in mind, it can easily be changed before anything is permanent. The product owner is involved in the entire development process, so he or she can continuously provide feedback and reduce the risk of ending up with a product that's not usable. Also, because the team meets daily, anything that's not working is discovered quickly. The Scrum development methodology can work well with an outsourced team, even though it depends on regular meetings. In order for the methodology to work, though, the team must meet on a daily basis. When two groups are working in different countries, daily scrums or stand-ups allow them to stay on task and engaged with the work of the off-site team members. Many groups make the off-site team seem closer through the use of video. The meetings go more smoothly when the team is working in the same or similar time zones. Near-sourcing or outsourcing to a country close to the company's country of origin is ideal, since it cuts down on language barriers and cultural differences, allowing the team to work well together. The similar time zone is also a key factor for success. If the off-site team is working at the same time as the base team, they can join stand-ups and ad hoc meetings and ask questions throughout the day. In traditional software development methodologies, the product requirements are given to the outsourced team at the beginning of the project. The overseas team produces a product and demonstrates a completed product at the end. There's a lack of communication between product owner, the development company, and the outsourced team. There could be many misunderstandings between the groups. The Scrum methodology cuts down on those misunderstandings between teams in different countries. Chapter 11. What is Virtual Scrum and how is it applied? Virtual Scrum is an education tool used to help teach the Scrum methodology to undergraduate students in the field of software engineering. Because this has become such a widely used Agile practice in the software industry, it's important that students get a feel for this experience in a hands-on manner. This study provided an educational and hands-on approach to Scrum methodology. This virtual training tool allowed students to familiarize themselves with programs and elements of Scrum like blackboards, web browsers, document viewers, charts, and calendars. Agile software development and the Scrum methodology. Annual surveys have found that Agile methods like Scrum have been increasing every year. The 2007 State of Agile Development Survey found that 37% of respondents use Scrum, and today more than 50% of surveyed companies have adopted Scrum as their main Agile methodology. This methodology is a dependable, collective approach to software development that can be implemented in any office. This also leverages communication and teamwork to successfully manage product development. So, while this study has established the importance of virtual Scrum, it's important to understand how virtual Scrum can be applied in your individual or workplace life. This study was established to help users understand the framework and capabilities involved in the Scrum methodology. Virtual Scrum allows users to get a 3D experience inside the world of Scrum development. This program helps users become involved in the Scrum process by taking members through an incremental life cycle or sprints. These users are also able to become avatars with specific roles, including Product Owner, Scrum Master, and Scrum Team. It's important to familiarize oneself with the basics of this methodology before experiencing the virtual Scrum world. This secondary tool, used to help people understand the process and actions involved during the Scrum methodology, helps illustrate firsthand the benefits of this methodology. While reading and writing about the Scrum methodology is a good way to learn, it's especially helpful to get real exposure to the Scrum process. Virtual Scrum not only allows users to take on important roles inside the Scrum process, but it also helps people experience other aspects of Scrum development, including organizing and creating user stories, planning the sprint backlog, monitoring sprint work, and finishing the sprint. All of these key steps to the process can be understood through Virtual Scrum. This teaching tool is extremely valuable to the software engineering world, and many great companies are searching for engineers well-versed in this area. For those looking to get a better understanding of Scrum and its processes, using the Virtual Scrum program is an excellent option. The simulated Scrum environment may be the next major trend in Scrum education. This has been Scrum, Guide for the Agile Way to Project Management, written by Jason Cambry, narrated by Jim D. Johnston. Copyright 2017 by Jason Cambry. Production copyright 2017 by Jason Cambry.